Welcome to Shallow. Join us as we explore the topics that are always on our minds, from beauty and wellness trends to balancing our careers and ambitions. These conversations fill our WhatsApp inboxes and social media feeds. We're diving into pop culture and asking the question, is it really that deep?
In today's episode, we're asking if celebrity style has lost its grip on the fashion world. With social media and influencers now dominating our online fashion content, have platforms like Instagram and TikTok democratized fashion, making us care less about A-list red carpet moments? We're diving into how the fashion landscape has shifted and what that means for the future of style.
So Luce, how have you been this last week?
I've been pretty good. I think relevant to today's episode, I've been kind of reading Taylor Swift Styled by Sarah Chappelle on Phoebe's recommendation.
It's
good. Something that I have been kind of seeing posted about, and as a big Taylor Swift fan, I've kind of followed her style throughout my own life as well. And I think you can look back probably when I'm 15 and I was wearing, polka dot H&M dress from Taylor Swift's actual wardrobe. It cost $14.99 or something. And red brogues. You can very heavily see Taylor Swift's kind of influence on my own style there. So kind of flicking through this book, I say flicking through, but I've been engrossed in it because it is a page turner, and she's really managed to pick out some amazing photos and outfits, and going through the history of not just her career, but her style career. It's really interesting to see how much of an impact that has had on people or not had on people. But it was a really good recommendation, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think she writes I think she's coined it critically kind, and I think that's a really, really good way to describe it. I think she's obviously a fan, she obviously has been for a very long time, but I think the way she dives into the outfits, the music industry, Taylor's career, it's not just about what she puts on her back. There is an awful lot more to it, but take a shot already because we've already mentioned Taylor Swift. My recommendation is also kind of a fashion-y one. It's Anna, the biography by Amy Odell. Obviously, that's Anna Wintour. I'm pretty sure everyone will know who she is. And this is basically about her life, her childhood, how she came to be the person she is today. And it is the real life Devil Wears Prada. It's amazing.
I mean, if you haven't guessed already, me and Phoebe are big Devil Wears Prada fans. So yeah, that is on my nightstand. I'm still in Australia, so I will read it. I will be reading it whilst I'm here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So Lucy came in with a pretty hot take this week, which has just made me laugh after realising your recommendation, because the take is, do we give a shit about what celebrities wear? And she's reading a book about what Taylor Swift wears. So I think we might have just answered our own question.
It's very fashion heavy of what, and I'm already making notes on what I'm going to buy that's similar.
She cares, ladies and gentlemen.
She cares.
But she came in with a hot take. What is it?
Yeah, so Taylor Swift and her style aside, I feel like people are kind of getting increasingly saturated and kind of bored with celebrities and their styles, and I'm just kind of wondering whether that's largely because social media has kind of changed the game on that front. It seems like anyone could be an influencer now. You can set up a podcast like we are doing.
The world doesn't need any more of them,
exactly.
But here we are.
And achieve a certain level of fame, whether that is just within your kind of circle of friends or a small outreach audience or larger. Yeah, it just feels like maybe traditional celebrity style is a little less prominent.
So the shallow take is that we don't care much or as much about what celebrities wear anymore because we have so many other voices and styles to follow on social media.
Yeah, I think we have this kind of seemingly endless stream of people to follow on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, which kind of dilutes it for me. You're so used to seeing people who you don't know on your feed being get dressed with me, current aesthetics, POV, my current aesthetic, day in my life. And to bring it back to kind of the celebrity point of view, it's kind of often hard to distinguish who is an actual celebrity and who is an influencer, or whether they're just a normal working person that kind of does this on their lunch breaks or not. And I think, A-list celebrities aside, because, you could probably recognize Blake Lively's face anywhere, Ariana Grande's face anywhere. They are the superpowers of the celebrity industry. But when you're kind of just scrolling through TikTok, you've got comedy influencers, fashion influencers. There's so many people influencing you that it takes it away from kind of more of the old school look in a magazine and see what hot pants are hot this week, you know?
And I think we should probably take a trip back to the kind of early 2000s when we were growing up. And at the end of the day, like, celebrities were the OG influencers, right? Like, we were looking at magazines, TV, print, these like red carpet moments. That was our only source of material to look through. We didn't have TikTok, we didn't have Instagram. We kind of had celebrities, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like maybe that generation looking back and being like, oh, and this is how they're selling these jeans and these shoes, and oh my god, look how amazing they look walking down the street in that amazing summery setting. And it's almost like maybe that was like teaching us and gearing us up to be influencers ourselves, because it's like, here's the material. Oh, and look, now you've got a phone that can do anything and everything.
You can replicate it.
And you can replicate that and be that person, be that celebrity that you've been kind of fawning over for your whole like early life.
Definitely. So kind of what you're saying is, I guess, when you were younger, you were easily influenced by maybe something you saw in a magazine, what a celebrity was wearing on the cover, what a celebrity was wearing at an award show, basically any kind of those traditional media touch points. You were a lot more influenced by the celebrity, rather where now you maybe go to a Pinterest or a TikTok for your inspiration. And those people, they're not faceless, but you don't know who they are.
Oh, for definite. Like, back in the early 2000s, I was a massive High School Musical fan, and, you know, like, Disney had such an influence on people's fashion back then, you know, with the whole fedoras and like the tight cropped jeans, which should never come back, can I just
leave
add?
them in the past.
With the kind of big like woven belts with the buckle and like
iconic,
you know,
like
with the
Hilary Duff,
exactly,
like,
Hilary Duff, Sharpay,
yeah,
like Paris Hilton, you know, with the scarves and everything,
the
like,
girlies,
yeah, like obsessed with it. And like I would rinse and repeat High School Musical 2 watching that, and I'd be so heavily influenced by what they were wearing. And yeah, now I feel like I am influenced, but I'm influenced in a different way. I'm influenced heavily by advertisements, and I'm heavily influenced by just a Pinterest board with an influencer that I wouldn't even be able to tell you who it is.
Interesting. I think also going into like the award show realm, maybe back in the early 2000s, obviously maybe some of the shock factor has also been lost a little bit as well. I do feel like we feel a little bit maybe jaded when it comes to fashion a lot of the time. I'm instantly thinking back to like the meat dress that Lady Gaga wore versus, you know, not necessarily what she wore, but Katy Perry's performance at the VMAs in 2024. And, you know, she was basically like scissoring someone on stage. And maybe I'm older and I just don't care as much, but I just felt a bit like, oh, I'm a bit jaded to this, I feel.
Yeah, like you're kind of just watching it a bit desensitized. You're like, oh yeah, that again. You know, you see, who's the performer that does the make me sweat, make me water.
Oh, I don't know her name.
And she like pours water on her back. Honestly, that was like, okay. But yeah, you're kind of a bit like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
This again. Oh, she's wearing, you know, because she kind of dresses a bit 2000s. Tyler, is she called?
Oh, yeah, Tyler, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like we've got all these kind of online publications, and it's really democratized fashion in a way, but has it taken the spotlight off traditional celebrity style? Like, do we really remember, like you said, like the iconic red carpet moments as much? Like, I feel like I have to always kind of dip back into like Grammy red carpet 2023 to really remember. But like obviously like the Lady Gaga meat dress, you're like, okay, instantly you know the image that you're thinking of.
Yeah, and also how many people from say this year's VMAs, aside from maybe the people that you're interested in, like what can you remember that anyone wore?
Yeah,
I can't remember anything.
The only thing I can remember is actually Chapel Rowan's
oh yeah, the chainmail
Joan of Arc moment, which I think is iconic. But yeah, I think people maybe are a little bit infatuated by Chapel Rowan because she is really dramatizing her outfits, like, you know, Lady Gaga did back in the day, Katy Perry did back in the day, and I feel like everyone's a little bit more uniformed and a little bit more like staying in their lane.
So let's kind of chat about the celebrity style doesn't matter anymore angle. I think we've kind of made it clear that celebrity style once was king, it had unparalleled influence, and the significance has really arguably diminished in today's landscape for multiple reasons. But I think we should start a dilution of influence. We've already kind of touched on it a little bit they were the primary tastemakers. They dictated the trends and the styles, and not a lot of room was really left for anyone else. And also, you could argue that magazine editors fell in this bracket as well, like just fresh off the back of obviously reading the Anna Wintour biography. I'm starting to understand more and more the influence that magazine editors had at that time as well, because ultimately that was one of our primary sources of media. That was how we were getting our fashion. They were often dictating, along with fashion designers, what we saw and
this is our fault.
Yeah, what we were influenced by. So kind of as like the ultimate original gatekeepers. And now we've got these influencers. There's so many voices in this fashion space. Is celebrity style just no longer the benchmark of like what's in and what's out? And then you couple that with the kind of decline in print. What are we kind of left with?
Yeah, I think it's cool that that's happening in a way because, for example, Matilda Djerf, you know, she has such a cultural impact and she is an influencer. She owns her own brand. But, you know, the kind of like summer girl aesthetic with the white shirt, the very Scandi blonde hair and the baggy blue jeans, that kind of casual designer look, I feel like is very much attached to her. And, you know, everyone's kind of going to get that like Matilda Djerf haircut. And like, you know, it's not so much like, oh, what's Dua Lipa's new hairstyle? Let me go out and get it cut immediately. I don't see anyone doing that.
Oh, I did with the cherry red hair that she got. Like, that was over my feed a lot. I think that also one thing we probably have to, like, touch on as you've raised it is I feel like we're just starting to care more about the people that we care about, I guess. Because I think we're not huge Dua Lipa fans. I think we put on her music every now and again. It's fun. We'll dance to it. But, like, we're not glued to the screen of like what she's wearing. But I remember when she dyed her hair red, I felt like I saw quite an influx of people going and dyeing their hair red.
Yeah, and you've got that kind of like that filter on TikTok at the moment as well. And I don't know whether it's kind of got into your feed, but it's kind of like you can change the colour of your hair and it's like really accurate and it shows people like exactly what colour they should go because it's just very obvious. Spooky. And I think everyone's always trying to do the kind of auburn hair look.
It is stunning. I love that colour.
Stunning. So where do you get your like personal kind of style inspo from?
Pinterest, mainly. That's my kind of go-to. I don't follow many traditional influencers on social media. I think if I'm looking for fashion inspiration, I generally go to Pinterest. I feel like I find more options. I feel like the algorithm learns what you like quite quickly. And I also think, and they've built it in a very smart way, is that it's also very shoppable as well. Like if you find something you like, you can probably click through and buy it.
It's very Tumblr.
Or you can see the other options. Yeah, it's kind of like the grown-up Tumblr. But I mean, it's funny, someone said to me the other day that they felt Pinterest was really live, laugh, love. Like live, laugh, love vibes.
Oh no, honey.
And I like initially thought the same thing, but there's so much on there now. I think if I'm gonna go and be like, oh, I've got a new pair of shoes, I'm wondering how to style them, like Pinterest is kind of my first port of call. How about you?
I think it's a very big combination. I think I maybe see something I like on an influencer that I follow and I kind of get a bit like, oh, I don't want to actually buy that from them. I don't know. I kind of have like a tendency to be like, I don't want to buy it from them for some reason because I feel like they are just kind of walking adverts in a way. So I will then go to Pinterest and be like, you know, put in like maybe red dolly shoes and it'll come up with like a load of Parisian style content.
So do you feel as though increased access to fashion content with Pinterest is kind of, we can create our feeds, we get much more personalized algorithms now, that is taking the spotlight off celebrity
100%.
fashion?
Like I think it's interesting to think about whether I am being kind of influenced by the advertisements that my algorithm is giving me, and you know, I'd like to say that I'm not, because I feel like I do have my own kind of style and I like quite classic design over kind of the trends that seem to be kind of coming in waves. But I think it's learnt that as well. And I think that's interesting to say because I think it knows kind of what I do like now. And yeah, I don't feel like I need to turn to a celebrity or a magazine to be like, oh, what should I be wearing? What could I be wearing? Because my phone and my algorithms already know what I like.
Definitely. And I think also one thing we're seeing, maybe slightly outside of the celebrity realm, but through these kind of algorithms and our social media feeds, is we're really seeing a much more like uniform approach to fashion. I don't know about you, but like a lot of the stores I go in now are all selling the same iteration of the same clothes. I see kind of a lot of girls of a similar age walking down the street and we're all wearing the same outfits. It does seem to be that there's maybe this like homogenization of style that's happening.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of taking away from maybe more of a distinctive flair that celebrities once had, and they had more of a kind of like independent style that maybe then trickled through, you know, fashion and influence, whereas now it feels everyone's a little bit more uniform in their fashion, like you said.
There's also an argument that influencers are just the new celebrities. At the end of the day, they have these huge substantial followings online. They're being invited to sit front row at Fashion Week. They're being courted by these designers. You know, Madeline White is a really prominent creator that comes to mind. I really love her content. I think there's probably a bit of a redefining of what celebrity means now, because I think you'd argue that a lot of these big influencers, like, they're now the celebrities.
When a well-known figure, for example, starts a brand like, you know, Molly May and her brand Maybe, you know, that sold out, I think, was in like 2 minutes. And obviously there's kind of some like ethical grey areas with old Molly and the quality of her garments, but you know, that's a separate issue. And I feel like that's kind of already blown over in a way, because I think she's such a massive influencer that, yeah, she is a celebrity. She's not just an influencer now.
I see her as a celebrity over an influencer.
She's crossed that threshold.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it kind of underscores the power of kind of celebrity endorsements. Like, I generally would probably not go for a celebrity endorsed makeup brand, for example, over maybe more of an influencer, because I'm like, okay, well, the influencer, maybe this is what their life revolves around. Maybe they are a makeup influencer, or they do makeup, and therefore I would be more inclined to do so. But if like a celebrity brings out like a new perfume or a new clothing range or whatever, I'm not too bothered about it. You know, like an example of this might be Rita Ora's Primark collaboration.
That was an interesting choice.
It's an interesting choice. Who buys that? And I think I've seen like a lot of people kind of dragging it through the ringer, because it is horrific. It's horrendous. And it's not, and it's kind of done as a kind of like, oh, I'm just going to try and make a little bit of money from this, but nobody's really interested in what she has to offer.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting partnership. I think it felt like a little bit of a money grab. I didn't think it felt overly thought through. But I think from my perspective, I do feel like celebrity style does continue to hold significant influence for a couple of reasons. Partly one you just mentioned, obviously Molly May's kind of fashion brand. Also, when a well-known figure wears a particular outfit, it can often sell out pretty much immediately, and the searchability of that brand can also skyrocket. And also that crosses over into celebrity endorsements, which we just spoke about, and can turn kind of niche brands into these like must-haves overnight. I think people that come to mind that still hold a really high level of influence are people like Blake Lively, Hailey Bieber, Taylor Swift, Rihanna, Olivia Rodrigo. I think Daisy Edgar-Jones. Anytime Zendaya wears anything, I feel like the internet
goes mad,
fires up again. So I think we are still seeing a level of influence from these celebrities, but it maybe feels like that the pool of celebrities has maybe become smaller.
Yeah, the pool of celebrities might have become smaller because it's saturated by a lot of, you know, just kind of like normal people becoming influencers and, you know, starting clothing lines and brands and makeup lines and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of, it does kind of make it a little bit more competitive. Like they're not just monopolizing the industry anymore. Like there's some real contenders.
There's also the relatability factor as well, because like you look at a lot of influencers are very designer led. I think a lot of them are aspirational, but I think where influencing really comes into its own is the relatability factor. And I think a lot of the time you're probably more likely to be able to afford to maybe buy something that an influencer is wearing rather than what Rihanna is wearing. So maybe that's where that kind of increased influence is coming from as well.
You know, we should mention a recent Burberry campaign that I found yesterday.
We love this.
Amazing. I mean, we've mentioned it before, but we watched Rivals. It's on Disney Plus. It's got David Tennant in it and Alexander Hassel. Absolute dish. They were stood on the side of the road in London, like hailing a cab wearing full Burberry. And it was such a way to kind of get people in the door. What did you think about it?
I really liked it. I think this is where we see celebrity influence, even though it's paid celebrity influence, really raising the bar for fashion houses, because Burberry, I think, do this time and time again. They also released their most recent, obviously they've done their Christmas campaign, but I believe it was their autumn winter campaign, and they had Barry Keoghan, Cara Delevingne, Olivia Colman, Lil Sims in, you know, all of these kind of Burberry attire. So they're really tapping into the kind of celebrity endorsement side of things. But I think with the David Tennant and Alexander Hassel side of it, obviously Rivals is huge, it's British, it felt like such a strong alignment. And I think it really can invigorate an interest into a designer and henceforth have a bit of a resurgence in sales. But I think that Burberry campaign was such a fun example of when it's done and it's done right.
Yeah, and you found a really good study online which kind of looked at the psychology behind marketing endorsements. It kind of actually centered around food.
Yes, it did. So this was a study that was done on the marketing psychology behind celebrity endorsement. We will also link it in the show notes if you would like to take a read. But basically, the overall finding is that people are more likely to choose products that are endorsed by a celebrity rather than a non-celebrity, and they make that choice faster. And that's based on pupil dilation and spending less time deliberating their choice, and they were more confident about their decision when they made it. So that is a 2022 study. Obviously, we're 2024 when recording. This will go out in 2025, so things might have kind of evolved since then. But I think that's a really telling study on if these marketing campaigns and celebrity endorsement does kind of work.
So what you're saying is that basically people still
care. But that was a study that was centering around food and celebrity endorsement. We're obviously talking about celebrity fashion, but there is crossover there.
Yeah, so would you say then that maybe like if you're not a celebrity, you could sell a product easier because you would be looking at the product rather than the celebrity?
I think you could argue that, but are you going to get people looking in the first place?
That's true. Like with the celebrity status comes like traction and views and
gets people through the door.
Fan bases.
I do feel like celebrities do often still set trends, but influencers democratize them. So for example, like Hailey Bieber, I feel like she was probably one of the original like OG kind of clean girl gals, but Molly May really like democratized that trend and brought it to the masses and made it very attainable for like the every girl. So I think there is something to say that celebrities do still hold their power, but influencers are kind of diluting it a little bit and democratizing it. So I think to probably summarize, is it really that deep? Do we give a shit what celebrities wear? Having discussed all of that, I think we obviously kept landing on the fact that we kept coming back to influencers, and maybe we are more influenced by what they're wearing because maybe we see more of ourselves in the people that we choose to follow over celebrities who maybe feel like there's this element of unattainability, or I can't afford that, so I'm not even going to look, or I actually don't really care about them. And we're losing that kind of sat around the TV watching these award show kind of vibes. Now it's on TikTok, we can flip past anything we're not interested in, and that's just diluted everything for us.
I think, going through this, I think it is a fact of like, I am able to curate my own content, I am able to create my own design, I am able to like look at Taylor Swift in Taylor Swift styled and pick out elements that I like, but then also go on TikTok and be like, oh, that looks cool on that person, and kind of pair those things together. And it's an accumulation of it all, whether like in the past it would have just been like, oh, I'm going to go and buy Vogue and see what Anna Wintour is telling me is in for this season. And yeah, I think even back in the day, it was more like for my prom, for example, I was looking in this Taylor Swift styled book. Take a shot, and she was wearing this kind of netted red dress, and I remember seeing that photo back in the day, and I literally formed my entire prom dress around that, and I bought something extremely similar. I did my hair similar, I bought shoes similar, and the thing is I probably would do the same thing now, but whether that's because I'm just a massive fan of her or not is a different question, because I don't think I look at anybody else but her and think, okay, I want that item, or I want that item. I think I pull it from all different angles.
Yeah, I think there's an element of like, we care about who we care about, and I think now we have the choice to flip to a different channel, follow the people we want to follow. We're not just picking up a magazine and being fed what's on that page. If we don't like what we see, we can flip past that, and I think that does sit for both influencers and for celebrities. But I think we are a lot more homogenized, and the algorithms are so much smarter now that we're just being kind of fed the same thing, and maybe we're not seeing kind of outside of our purview anymore. But I think that it has lost a little bit of its influence, but I think the people that we're engaged with, we're more engaged with.
So what you're saying is it's not that deep because we have so many people giving us so much advice on what we should be wearing. We're able to curate our own ideas of what we like. We're not as heavily influenced by what a celeb is wearing down the runway, and that's not going to influence how we dress for the next 6 months. It might influence an outfit or two here or there, but on the grand scheme of things, we are just so oversaturated with content that we don't need them as much.
Yeah, I totally agree. And now it's time for...
And what a pile of bollocks!
This is the time in the show where we just chat shit about something insignificant that just fucks us off. Lucy, it's your turn today, as always. I have no idea what you're going to bring to me. What is it?
This one's going to piss a lot of people off because I think a lot of people do this, and I'm just going to go for it because why not? Live on the edge. I hate fucking baby showers. Why are you having a shower for your baby? Like, also, what gender reveals? That's the same category. Why are you doing that? Why are you gender revealing your child before it's even born?
The gender reveal, there's something about that is just not okay. Like,
No.
Let's just take a beat. If you're having a gender reveal, you're probably gonna have a baby shower. Why do you need both?
Do you know what's really fucking annoying about gender reveals? Is when the guy, I've seen this multiple times on Facebook. The guy is stood there, they do the little pop and like blue or pink or whatever the fuck comes out. And, the guy, like, if pink comes out, goes, oh yeah, nice one, yeah. Solid. And then if the blue comes out, he's like, hey, fucking, let's go. I've got a boy, he can play football with him. Hey, let's fucking go. I've got a fucking lad, guys. And they're like fucking fist bumping and like chest bumping each other. And the girls just stood there like, oh my God, have I married a sexist?
I feel like I unleashed a bit of lad in there for me a second. I haven't seen that. I haven't witnessed it. I think I generally choose
everywhere.
I choose to scroll on by with
They're
that
like,
content.
yes, get in.
I'm probably more in the camp of baby shower, not the biggest fan, live and let live, gender reveal, hard no.
Hard no. Thanks so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a really huge difference in helping others discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs, send us a bell, or follow us on Instagram at shallowpod, or send us an email at shallow@boxedoff.net. Shallow is a Boxed Off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.